Yes, I'm recording. The templates are organized in ways that I think make sense because, well, I did it, but if our brains don't work the same, then you can always find any of your Florida Interactive forms here under Florida Interactive Forms. The first time you click it, it will ask you, and periodically, for your NERDS number. And Dalton Wade custom forms. This is going to have anything that we converted into a form. We made a form that would include actual Dalton Wade forms or MLS forms. Anything that didn't come from Florida Realtors would be in here. And then I have them all divvied up here in various places that I think make sense, but you may not. So we have added everything that we needed. And then we went into our details and we added the details that I think are going to be very helpful to you when preparing your documents. We added our sellers. We definitely made sure that we are the listing agent. We had our address, our parcel tax ID. We're going to add the MLS number later. That's what connects it to our accounting system. So we do need you to do that. And if a property doesn't have an MLS number, make one up. FSBO, non-MLS, new construction, kind of make new for new construction, make one up. We also fill in the legal description and then the tax IDs up here, very important. So now that we did all of that, we go back to our loop and we start preparing our documents, and that's where we were when you guys joined us. We were preparing our documents. Now, before I continue, because I did this catch up very, very quickly, I want to take you to YouTube, to the With Dalton Wade page. And I have under playlists, I have a listing side playlist. Here we are. It contains 16 videos that are broken up into fairly short videos. This one's 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Some of them are longer, but you need to have MLS permission. So Jael, I'm assuming that you've taken the Ad Edit class. I'll show you how to check that. Logging into dotloop, navigating dotloop, downloading the public record, adding your loop, adding files and templates. Now we're on preparing files for signature. So the entire training is broken up into manageable videos that you can skip, you can repeat, however it works for you. But these are very helpful. One, because you're going to notice that as we go, I tend to ramble, and you're going to get some good information with my rambling. However, these ramble a little bit less. So they're a little more focused. So that's the YouTube channel. And all of these are also about to be added to Join Dalton Wade. We've added a training page, and we've added all of these videos to that page. They aren't organized quite perfectly yet because we're just got it done. So they're all still, and they'll stay here. They're here. So we'll go back to dotloop. We were on preparing our files for signature. I personally start with the easy ones. We did wire fraud. Now we're going to do the lead-based paint disclosure. You're going to open up, anytime you open up a form, it's going to come up with an autofill because it wants to fill that stuff in for you. We don't know who our buyers are yet. Seller 1, seller 2. We don't know who the buying agent is. I'm the listing agent. We have our address, seller's names, and our legal description. Click autofill. And then here we go. It knows where our sellers are going to initial. I tend to check, oh, they're gonna have to fill in the knowledge. So point this out to them because they need to check one of these boxes. I actually thought I had this checked. And then the buyers are going to check that they received this. Listing agent, you're signing that you have informed the seller's obligation under US code, and you're aware of your responsibility to ensure compliance. who can tell me what that means? What is the seller's obligation under US code? Who knows that? And while you're thinking, just type in what you know about the seller's obligations under US code. I'm going to point out this is a federal law, US, and that lead-based paint is bad and it's irreversible. So it's so bad that they came up with this form and all of these laws, and if anybody knowingly violates the provisions of the Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act, then they may be subject to civil and criminal penalties and potential treble damages. It could be tens of thousands of dollars. So that's really why I spend a little extra time on here. It's a 5-minute form, and God forbid this actually happens and somebody actually gets sued. You want to have done this correctly. It literally does not take that much extra time to do it correctly. It is the seller's responsibility to disclose everything they know. Any knowledge they have to disclose, that's one. Number two, they have to share any reports, knowledge and reports. Number three, they have to provide a 10-day opportunity or other mutually agreed upon period to conduct a risk assessment or inspection. Now, the buyer doesn't have to take advantage of that, but the buyer has to be given the opportunity by the seller. That's number three. Number four, the seller has to provide to the buyer, and this is the one that really trips everyone up. The seller has to provide the pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead-Based Paint in Your Home. That's the EPA pamphlet. That is the seller's responsibility to provide that to the buyer. Now, how is that going to happen? Nobody ever does that. I'm the buyer's agent. I always supply it. Great. That's the right thing to do, I think, in my opinion, but it is the law that the seller's supposed to do it. So most people don't know that. So I'm going to close this up. It's all prepared for signature. I'm going to close this up, and I'm going to draw your attention to the other lead-based paint form that we uploaded here when we're on the listing side, and that's the lead-based paint law notice. For me, when I initial that I've provided the seller, and here we go, seller, there is no landlord. This is how I provide them that information. I do it in writing. I tell them that they have to disclose, provide, disclose, and allow. See, they have to provide the EPA approved hazard information pamphlet. Nobody knows that, right? But you told them, right? So that's why it knows they're going to sign here, and then you're just going to say that you're the one that gave it to them, right? And when did you give it to them? So it's the 6th day of So that's why I do this. And this says they have no knowledge, and if they do, they can write it here, here, and we're done. And that's why I add this to my list. Just because I really don't want to ever get sued, if I'm being honest. I've never been sued. I'd rather not start now, knock on wood. I cannot imagine that it would be fun. Here's the lead info pamphlet. I'm just going to open this up. And it says this document is shared with the buyer directly or added to the MLS attachments without a C. Attachments for the buyer to share, and I initial. I'm going to sign this. You can send it to your seller. I don't care how you do it. I don't really even care if you sign it that much, but I do. And then I send it. And I actually do add this to my MLS attachments, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So that's lead-based paint. Anybody have any questions about lead-based paint? Post-occupancy by seller. Now this is one that you don't normally see in a listing agreement, but we're actually doing one that applies. All right, so this is basically say this contract is contingent of the buyer and seller by default with 10 days prior to closing, delivering each other a mutually acceptable written lease prepared by at the seller's expense or the buyer's expense or split equally for the seller to remain in the property until, in this case, we want 45 days after closing. And the written lease shall provide the seller is going to pay a monthly rent of X amount. Jael, do you know the rent that they are looking to pay, or has that been discussed? Not yet. Okay. So this is going to cover you. You're going to make this part of the contract that you accept. So we are going to upload this to the MLS so that when you get the offer, it's going to include this. We've also uploaded the standard property disclosure. Now this is very often, most often, much easier filled out live and in person than it is. Here's our autofill, does everything for us, lovely. A lot of people use their phone to fill stuff out, and that just really doesn't work too well. So probably best to go ahead and print this and hand it to them, and that's the best way. I mean, you can do it this way, but it is far less likely to be accurate, and this is something that you probably do want to be accurate. It helps when you can read the question. Okay, so now we have our everything prepared except the exclusive right of sale listing agreement. Now, does anybody want me to spend a few extra minutes? This is not a contract training. Phil does have contract trainings here on the YouTube, and he does them live every now and then. And I believe there's also an example of a filled out listing agreement. Okay, I'm going to go over this. We have our sellers, our listing agent, our broker, our street address, our sales commission rate, our sellers, our listing, let's do our listing date is going to be the 15th. This gives us until the 20th to get it on the MLS. Our expiration date, longer the better. So we're just going to, hopefully they gave it to us for a really long time, probably not that long, but I'm just going to put that in there. And the price, $60. Now we're going to fill this in. Okay. I tend to add Dalton Wade here. It puts Phil's name, and he is the broker, but I tend to put Dalton Wade. This is automatically going to fill in because we added it. Oh, 370. I can change that. It's easy to change stuff too. There we go, changed. Here's our street address, our legal description. It pulled all of that. Personal property, including appliances. I do write if the washer, dryer, refrigerator are going to be included. Range. I write that stuff in there. Anything that's excluded, you would write, I think at the end. What is that? Your financing terms. At 370, it is unlikely that you're going to go FHA, but you could go VA. It's unlikely that you're going to do seller financing or an assumption of an existing mortgage, because then they might have a hard time getting another mortgage if they're still, because they would still, you know. Multiple listing service, you do want to put it on the MLS unless they tell you not to, and if they want to opt out, then they would need to opt out of the internet here. You really don't want to do that. You do want to try and use a lockbox. This is going to give you the option to withhold verbal offers or withhold all offers once the seller accepts an offer. That's between you and your client. I tend not to do it because I like to tell my client what's going on. Virtual office websites, there may be things, real estate services online. This is going to allow the seller to not authorize automated estimates of values or third parties to write comments. I tend to leave these unchecked simply because I do not want my client to be penalized and their property not shown. That's just me. The seller's obligation. This says the seller's obligation is to cooperate, inform the broker of anything that's going on, provide keys to the property, make it available for showing during reasonable times. They must comply with FERPTA, and they must disclose known material defects. Here's our compensation. This is the most confusing piece of this contract, really. This is the total compensation that the seller is going to pay the broker, that's Dalton Wade. So they are going to pay, in this case, 5% total commission. If you are going to charge your seller something extra, 5% plus, hey, I also want an extra $300 for photos and stuff, you would put it here. This is the percentage, this is the dollar amount, or this is a straight dollar amount, which is fairly common for land or sometimes very low price things. You're just going to get an X amount. This is for an option that you would get paid at the time the option is created. Not real common unless you're working really very straight investment stuff. Options are much more common there. And you can sign as you go, by the way. Listing agreement, sign now, listing agent. So that is kind of something that's handy about this program, is you can sign as you go. So we got 5% that we're taking here. And then in section 9, this is what we're offering to another broker out of that 5%. We're going to offer, let's say, 2.5%. But we're on the $79 plan, and we want our $79. We want our whole 2.5%. So we're going to take we're going to offer 2.5% minus $79 to a single agent for the buyer. What about a transaction agent? Well, same thing, but we have to check that box too. And then somebody who has no brokerage relationship with the buyer, they've just, well, all right, I'll give you 1%, fine. If you say none of the above, you can't put the property on the MLS. Okay, now let's go back up here quickly. I skipped over brokers' fees are due in the following circumstances. If the seller refuses or fails to sign an offer at the price and terms stated in this agreement, or if they default on an executed sales contract or agrees with the buyer to cancel an executed contract, the seller still owes a commission, and they're going to owe it for this entire protection period. So let's go with 180 days. Now, this is kind of going to be, so this is going to protect you also if the seller transfer or contracts to transfer goes under agreement of the property or any interest of the property to any prospects to whom the seller, broker, or real estate licensee communicated with prior to the termination date. Now, this is null and void. Nothing's going to be due if the property's relisted. So if it expires and it gets relisted someplace else, this doesn't count, if you will. This says what you're entitled to in the event that we keep a deposit. Default is 50%. So that's good to know. Now, Compensation, 100% of your compensation goes here. The portion of that that you're offering to the co-broker goes here. If there's no co-broker, you are, unless otherwise disclosed, entitled to the entire 5%. We're going to put that at the down here in additional terms. This explains our relationship. In this contract, we are a transaction broker, and this says that we will deal honestly and fairly, account for all funds, use skill, care, and diligence, disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of this property, which are not readily observed to the buyer. This is important. If you know of a material defect, you also must disclose it. You have to present all offers and counter offers in a timely manner unless otherwise directed in writing. And you'll have limited confidentiality unless the seller waives that in writing. Okay? Conditional termination. This is at the seller's request, the broker may agree to conditionally terminate this agreement. It basically means that you can terminate it and that you have a protection period and that they can't just go and relist it. If it's conditionally terminated, that's not expired and that's not unconditional. They can't go and list it with someone else until their contract otherwise would have expired. Dispute resolution, please have this signed. This basically says we are going to try and work out any disagreements before we lawyer up, and that this agreement is binding on the seller and broker's heirs, personal representatives, administrators, successor, and assignees. The broker may assign this agreement to another office. This is where you're going to put the additional terms. So it's very, very often for somebody to say something like, you could do something like that. Whatever it is that you've agreed to, you can write it in here. You can also write something like, if something doesn't convey, then you should, in fact, put that in the realtor remarks on the MLS. So here's this, and that's all there is to it. I prefer that you fill this in, but if you don't, that's okay because it's electronic. Unless you get it ink signed. If you print and have them ink sign it, please write the date that you made a copy and returned it to the seller. Delivery is part of a contract. So that is the listing agreement. Now we're going to go over to the MLS. Do you guys want to see me actually start to put a property in the MLS, this one to be exact? Okay, so I'm going to go to the MLS, back out of my sales. My computer just started going really slow. So here's my MLS. I'm going to go to Add Edit. Now, if this does not allow me to add a new listing, chances are you have not taken the Add Edit class and you need to go to MLS University and sign up for that. Take the class, a couple hours, take the test, and then you need to let Phil know. The MLS is going to send him an email. He's going to ignore that. He gets about 500 emails from the MLS a day. So you need to tell him if you are ready to be turned up. So we're going to add a new listing. Residential, so it wants to know what kind, or this is for sold, like if it wasn't in the MLS. Residential, this is residential. And then we're going to search for property. So there's different ways. You can fill from the public record, realist tax. This is kind of new. Realist tax, cross property, which means an old MLS listing. Be careful with this one. Or don't start with a blank. Oh, that you have to fill in everything. You don't want to do that. I go from, I've never tried this one, if I'm being honest, from the public record. Let's try it. Let's try Michael L. Let's see. Let's see. I think it's gone over to, no, maybe not. Let's look here. I've actually never done this one before. I think it's new. All right, so I'm going to my tried and true realist. And I do have to find the county. And then now I'm going to do a search. And I know if I do this correctly, it will find it because it already did. But it didn't. Let's try that tax ID. Very odd. We're not finding it. I'm not giving up. Because you really don't want to have to fill this in yourself. Go. Huh. Why did it find it that time? I think I maybe didn't click the county. Okay, so this is where you're going to spend a great deal of time. It does take a while to put in a listing. So this is where you're going to get started. You're going to have your, each of these tabs is a different bit of information, and you are going to add all of that to your listing. This is our listing date. This is our price. Our expiration date. Anything that's in yellow is going to be required. So you're just going to go through and you're going to fill out all of these. And there is a Find My School, just you can do a Google search, Find My School, and you're going to just go from, and I save stuff as I go, you're just going to go from tab to tab, and you're going to fill all of this out. And as you go, you're going to save it as incomplete. It has created an MLS number for you. So if you click this, it's going to show you what your listing looks like. Now I want to show you this again. This is really super important. Let's say we have added, we're just to the future, we have added all of the information here. It's complete, right? So we're going to go to Add Edit. We're going to click to modify our incomplete listing here. We're going to open it up. Save it as incomplete. This is important. Saving is incomplete. I'm actually going to copy this. You're going to open it up. While you have it opened up just like this, your incomplete listing, I want you to notice it's an incomplete status. This is for Stellar MLS. This is a requirement. Scroll down to the bottom. We're pretending everything is filled out. You're going to print this. Your standard list of reports is going to come up that you're pretty accustomed to seeing. The one we want is owner's authorization. You're going to print it to a PDF. It'll show you what it looks like. What I want you to notice when this comes up, this looks exactly like a broker synopsis. Exactly. But because your listing is in an incomplete status and the report that you chose is owner's authorization, at the bottom, it has added an indemnification. The owner has reviewed the information contained in this data entry form and acknowledges the information to be true and correct to the best of the knowledge of the owner. And then the owner's going to sign. You are going to download this. I'm using Chrome. Everybody's computer might look a little bit different. It's going to, you can name it whatever you want to. And now you've got your owner's authorization that you're going to send to them for signature. And, you know, I'll be honest, I send this over to people, and a lot of times they say, oh, you know what, could you tweak what you wrote in the description right here and save? And they do actually have some changes for you. So don't be surprised when they do. I always send it over. Here's your listing. Take a look. Make sure the information that I'm preparing to upload to the MLS is correct. I just need your approval. If you have any changes, just let me know. And that's what you're going to say. That's the owner's authorization. And in dotloop, you are going to upload that to your loop right here. And then you're going to set that up for signature for them just by opening it up. This one's a little bit different. Yeah, and they don't do it, they don't make them do it in Miami either. They must have gotten sued. That's what I'm thinking. You're going to go add signature, owner's signature, assign the field, assign it to your seller, add signature, assign the field, add signature. And this is how you would, you know, set anything up. You don't need to add the date because it adds a timestamp, and you can sign this. You don't have to send it to Phil to sign. And that's all that is. To share all of these with your client, the things that you want them to sign. I don't know if you need to send them the Definitely don't need to send them your guidance for listing docs. You would have sent them everything else, and then this comes later. And you just hit share. And it's going to know who to share it with. System's pretty smart. It can see who needs to sign this stuff. I'm not really going to send it over. And to upload things to the MLS, it's add edit. And then you just go to your listing. And it is from here, and there are videos that take you through this. Manage photos, manage attachments. So for your attachments, you've got your lead-based paint pamphlet. You can go and download this, download. And you'll do this to all of them. You will download the pamphlet, the disclosure. You don't need the law notice. Anything that you want the buyer to sign. Seller's property disclosure after they've filled it out, of course. Post-occupancy, lead paint disclosure, not the notice. Yeah, and that's it. You're going to upload those to your matrix, choose the file. And this is also kind of similar to how the pictures are going to work. Here's my info pamphlet, and now you've completed your federal law to upload the lead paint pamphlet. Do that with your disclosure, do it with your anything that you want as part of that offer package. Believe me, it is easier to get things before you're under agreement than it is to go back and get them later. So this is the time to do it. You're going to upload pictures just by manage photos, and then you're going to upload those by browsing, grabbing some photos. Now I know fully that this is not, you know, this house that I'm about to upload some pictures of. Oh look, there's some pictures of me. You need to have the front of the house or an aerial view or a view from the back has to be your first picture. If your first picture is not a view of the front of the house, then your second picture needs to be a front of the house. For example, if it's on the water, you want the view from the backyard first, second needs to be the house. You want the aerial view first, second needs to be the view of the house. And you're going to upload the pictures. I want to draw your attention to your loop. I know I ramble. So we've got our listing docs. We have all of them signed. Everybody signed. Phil signed. Seller signed. Everybody signed. Everybody signed. Everything's awesome. Everything's wonderful. You go to submit for review. This is what sends them to compliance. Please submit for review within 48 hours of the effective date. Why? It's so much easier to correct things before there's a dispute, before there's money involved. These show not submitted. Once you submit them, I need the MLS number, which I think I copied. Yep, I did. I'm just submitting my listing docs. I can't possibly submit my initial offer package because I don't have an offer yet. Now, see how this says needs review? Hopefully it will come back approved. This is your initial offer package. There is nothing in this offer package. It's empty because they're going to send it over to you. No, don't submit. No. Submitting for review is like that's the final. If you want me to look at it before you send it to the seller, I'm happy to do that. That's a phone call or a text for me to just kind of, that's more support and training. Compliance is more the official of I've got everybody signed up. I think everything's good. That's the official, right? Because that's going to mark things as approved. The initial offer package and supporting documents, there's nothing there because they're going to send everything over to you. They might send it over in an email. So you can add document and you can email it in. Copy this to the clipboard. So they might send you an email with your offer, with an offer package. right? Now we're kind of pretending, because this is an actual offer package that is clearly not for this property. So I'm just going to show you what an offer package might look like. You're going to paste that in and send it. And all of this is in the training videos. So I forwarded that over. It's 4 meg, so it might take a minute for it to go. So you might receive an offer package that looks something like this. Now in this one that I'm sending you, I know that they've sent everything in one big file. I don't want it that way. I want it split up, right? So hopefully that'll get here in a minute. So I'm going to show you how to split stuff up. Split stuff before you have people sign it. I'm just waiting for the file to arrive. It's 4 meg, so it could take a few minutes to go from that email, because it's actually got to email it in. So it takes a little bit to email 4 megs out and then email 4 megs back in. There it is. So let's say it comes in one big package like this one. I'm going to show you a couple of very cool things here, I think, right? So first of all, I'm going to show you how to split something. So we're going to do file and split. You have to know how many documents to split the file into, right? So you scroll behind, and again, this is all in videos. I know I've been talking for a long time and it's hard to pay attention for this long. So the first, that's 1 is the contract, 2 is the condo rider, because this was a condo. Again, I realize this is not the same. 3 is FERPTA, and 4 is the seller's disclosure. So there's 4 documents here, and I can name them whatever I want to. Contract is 12 pages, 1 to 12. I know that. Condo rider. Is going to be 13 to 15. FERPTA is 16, and that 17 to 20 is the that is how fast it is to split up a document. And then here's something that's really cool. So it's going to archive the offer package. It's going to take me to the first document that I split it into is the contract. Let's just say we're going to, there's no place for the seller to sign because this was a PDF. Watch this. File, apply template. I have very few templates in here that are just buyer or seller side, but I have a few seller side templates and buyer side. So seller side, I've got the contract. Check this out, apply. It added places for people to sign. Now I'm going to autofill it. Oh, I'm going to save, and then I'm going to autofill. So it knew where people are going to sign. Now it knows my sellers. How cool is that? That saved you so much time. And let's say 420 is okay. Yeah, it's those are advanced things. So be patient with the program. It does take a while to learn all of this stuff. It's all in the videos. I will direct you to the right one. I will answer your questions. I'm here for you. You can still add a strike through. Let's say we don't like this offer. So you can still make individual changes after you've applied a template, right? And then obviously people have to initial those changes. So you might still have to do a few manual things, but you've just saved yourself an exorbitant amount of time by using a template. And you're going to save it. So now you've got the contract. The condo rider should have come back all signed up. Nothing to do there. And see how it's split now? It knows what everything is. This is why you split it. This is signed up. No need to send that back. There's nothing to counter there. And the condo riders all signed up. This is, you know, so you split it. You fix what you need to fix. And then you can just share this one with your client. When everything here is all signed up, you have the initial offer package and supporting documents. Everybody's agreed, everybody is signed, you think it's beautiful and it's correct. Submit this for review again. This time your initial offer package. We're submitting it for review, we're under agreement, we're super happy. It's not a pre-listing anymore, it is under contract. Woo! Market pending in the MLS. Does anybody know how long you have to mark something pending in the MLS once you go under agreement? Who knows how long? $48 hours. You have 2 days, probably because of weekends. Does anybody know how long you have to mark something sold once you're sold? That one you have 4 days. 4 days to mark it sold, 2 days to mark it pending. Remember those. No, you double everything you said. You know what though, Jael? It's better if you do it sooner than later. Well, for the sold. For the pending, I do tend to wait the entire 48 hours before I mark it pending. Why? I have had people put in a contract, we've gone under agreement, and then the next morning I've woken up to a phone call of my clients have changed their mind. And I've marked it pending. And now I got to explain why it's back on market after a day, right? So I don't do that. I wait. And then when you're done, so these say need review. Miles is going to be so confused when he sees these come over. He forgets that I do this every Wednesday. So hopefully these will say approved. We move to our mid-transaction. That starts with your earnest money deposit receipt. It is state law that the buyer's agent gets a copy of this and they should give it to you. I wouldn't wait for that. They have 10 days to do it. I would reach out to the title company and make sure escrow was deposited on 3 days, because you know, one, there would breach a contract if it didn't, but two, it's kind of looking like maybe they are going to back out. They aren't really diligent. And then your CDA. This is commission disbursement, gets you paid at closing. If everything here shows approved, this is going to be signed, lickety split. If not, it takes a little longer. But you are going to, so this is a more fluid folder. It starts at the earnest money deposit, ends at the CDA. You'll submit this for review towards the end. Closing docs come after closing. Please ask for the final walkthrough for your seller. If they don't give it to you, they don't give it to you, but you know, usually they will. So we went through an exorbitant amount of information today. If anyone would like to do a practice loop listing buy side, I'm happy to do that with you. If you want me to review your loops before you submit them, before you send them to your client to sign, I'm happy to do that for you. If you have questions that I can answer for you, why do we need this? How do I fill that out? Please explain to me the commissions on the listing agreement again. I don't, what have you. Please call. Here's the support lines. So that's the support number. It's staffed 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then my cell phone number. That's my cell phone number. Use that for emergencies. I'm usually the person that answers the support line, at least for the foreseeable future. Hopefully not forever. Questions now? And I just want to say, Jael, this listing that we're working on, Jael met this seller at the open house she did as part of the open house that's part of the LEAD program, the open house connections. Open houses work. She's also, I think, going to write an offer for these people for that open house. So open houses are my favorite LEAD program. Clarence having a hard time getting people to sit open houses, and I don't understand it. There's no referral fee. You are in front of potential clients. I'm not saying you're going to get a client every time you do an open house. When I started, I did 4 of them, or at least 3, every weekend until I met someone. And it might have taken me a month of weekends to meet, and I do short open houses, hour and a half each, so it's not like it kills my entire day. And then when I got busy doing showings with those buyers, I wasn't doing so many open houses. But anytime I needed a buyer, boy, open houses till I found one. They do put you in front of people where you can connect, you can meet, you can talk, you can bond. It's a great way to meet people. Well, that is really, I think, oh, one more thing. Let's just say, it really is. Let's say, Jael, that you're the one that gets the client for this contract. Say you get the buyer, so you've got the seller and the buyer, and here's this folder that's totally, I'm archiving everything, totally empty. What do? Let's go to add document, go to templates. Look at my handy dandy folders here. There's one called buy base package, and you can just grab that stuff. Dalton Wade disclosure, energy efficiency, wire fraud. Here's a contract. You got a placeholder for the proof of funds. You want a checklist? There's the checklist. Public record is already up top, so you probably don't need that. MLS printout, you're working both sides, so you probably don't need that. And these are, you got a brokerage agreement, what have you, but here's probably what you need. And that's how you're going to add that stuff quickly. And now you're ready to write your offer for your buyer. So that's how you add stuff if you get both sides. And I can't think, can anybody think of anything that questions, anything I missed, anything you want to see? All right, guys, thank you for joining me. I'll be here. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I will talk to you soon.